Hi guys, welcome to another video of my Soul 18, and today we are doing a reaction video, and also someone by the name of Ninja Wolfie said that somebody's eyes kept changing. Someone's eyes kept changing. This is my story animated. I will leave a link to the original video and the channel in the description below.
I could not believe it was finally happening. I was going to meet my mom. The hospital called at 3:30 in the morning to tell my dad that my mom had finally woken up and was asking for him. I know this sounds crazy, but my mom's been in a coma since I was born. I literally put her in a coma, and she hadn't woken up once in 14 years. Until this morning. My dad burst into my room, almost knocking my lamp over on my bedside table. I startled awake, and before I could even open my eyes all the way, he said, "She's awake!" Before I continue my story, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe to My Story Animated to hear more craziness like what you are about to witness. At first, I thought he was talking about me, and I was about to yell at him for waking me up. But then I realized what he meant. My mom was awake. My mom! I never heard her voice in real life. I never seen her eyes look into mine. I've held her hand, but she's never held mine. She's been here the whole time, but she has been so far away, too. She had had a complicated pregnancy with me. I was a stubborn fetus, I guess you could say. I decided that I wanted to come early, which caused a lot of issues for her, and she was rushed into surgery to get me out. She never regained consciousness after she was put under anesthesia, and because of her family's beliefs, my father never took her off the meds that kept her alive. I'd always had a feeling that at some point, I would have to be the one to end my mom's life. But thankfully, it didn't sound like that was going to happen after all. I bolted out of bed and ran to get my brother up. He was 2 years older than me, so he only remembers small fragments of mom in real
Why an ad? I'm just gonna skip this.
life. He remembers her singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star every night, and she made the best chocolate chip pancakes in the world. The sad thing is, he doesn't remember her smile or the way she smelled. So this day was the best news for all of us. My brother never said it out loud, but I knew that he blamed me for what happened to our mom. And to be honest, I didn't expect any less. He was nice to me growing up, but I always felt like there was something between us that wouldn't allow us to get closer. He hadn't forgiven me. Did you know the longest time someone has been in a coma was 19 years? Terry Wallace was in a coma for many years before he woke up on June 11, 2003. The ride to the hospital seemed to last forever, and we all rushed in as soon as my dad got the car in park. Our happy reunion was cut short when the doctor stopped us outside of my mom's room. He had a grave look on his face. Something was wrong. "She wants to see Emma," the doctor said, and my dad pulled me forward. He said no problem, and tried to get the doctor to open the door. "No, see," the doctor started. "She doesn't understand that Emma is a teenager now. She thinks that she just gave birth to her several hours ago." I think all of our faces turned white. Of course, we had thought this could happen, but we didn't know what to do when it finally came to be. The doctor told my dad that he didn't want to shock my mother until we were all here at the hospital with her, and we could introduce me. This wasn't going to be easy, and we all knew that. I held my breath as my dad and the doctor went into my mother's room. All I could hear was some muffled talking from the doctor and my dad. Then my mom started to scream uncontrollably. "Bring me my baby!" I got goosebumps up and down my arms. This was probably the most afraid that I've ever been in my life. I was so afraid that my mother was going to hate me and that she was going to think I ruined her life too. I almost ran out of the hospital, but my brother nudged me forward. The door to the hospital room stood open in front of me, and I walked through. I had never seen my mom with her eyes open. She already looked so much more full of life than she had just days ago. "Hi, Mom," I said, twirling my fingers through my hair. I did that when I was nervous. My mom was doing the same with hers, as she said, "Hi." My dad said that it was okay to step closer. I couldn't help but start to cry as I walked up to my mom. She had the same hair color as me, and her eyes were just as blue. My dad had always told me I looked like her, but I never could see it until now. In that moment, I felt like my mom had come back from the dead. I know she'd been here this whole time, but she was as good as gone. I touched her face and her eyes lit up. It's like she knew it was me. It's like she remembered my soul when she carried me in her stomach. "It is you," she said, and she wrapped me in a humongous hug. We bawled together on the bed for quite some time. Then my mom pulled away from me and wiped her tears. "It's so nice to finally meet you. The last time I saw you, you were on a black and white screen," she chuckled, talking about the sonogram. "I've grown since then," I giggled, and wrapped my hand around hers. Since Mom had been in bed for so long, most of her muscles were weakened. She'd need lots of physical therapy to get them back into shape. She wouldn't be able to leave the hospital for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. And when she did leave, she would still be required to do lots of physical therapy and other therapies, I guess. Those other therapies would help her deal with all the time that had passed and missing out on our lives and things like that. The one thing we didn't know how to tell her was that our dad was remarried. We'd had a stepmom for the last 3 years. My brother and I had given our dad our blessing to start dating again after the 10-year anniversary of when my mom went into a coma. He'd been so lonely. He'd basically only lived for us, and having someone there to help with the kids would be amazing too. We decided we weren't going to tell my mom that first day. We thought it would be too much to add to everything else that was going on. On the ride home, my brother blurted out,
Hold on, guys, this is gonna take a little while. Guys can fast forward if you want. You don't have to like watch this whole thing, well, this whole part of the video. Okay, there. Done. Alright, guys, back to the video.
that he didn't think we should tell Mom at all. He thought we should make our stepmom move out, which I didn't think was such a bad idea either. Our dad wasn't going for that. He hadn't fallen out of love with my mom. He'd just become stagnant. And the fact that she was awake now seemed to be weighing heavy on his mind. He was silent almost the entire ride home. When we pulled into the driveway, I asked if he was okay. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said he just didn't know what to do. We walked into the house and gave each other the biggest hugs. Our stepmom walked up and asked if we were okay. She knew what had happened and all of the craziness that was now going to continue. Except she thought that my dad didn't love my mom anymore and that they were actually divorced, when in fact, he'd never divorced our mom in the first place. This was going to be hell for sure. Later on that night, while my brother and I were supposed to be sleeping, we snuck down the stairway to listen to my dad and stepmom talking in the kitchen. "So what are we going to do?" my stepmom was asking. My dad was silent when she continued, saying that obviously we would need to contact my mom's family and have them help out. My dad said we were her family, and she would stay with us. My stepmom hated that idea, and suggested that we get a hotel room for her until we could figure something out. That's when he dropped the bomb. "We're still married," he blurted. My stepmom nodded. "Yes, we are, and I have every right to say what happens in this house." He gave my stepmom the side eye and said, "No, I mean that I'm still married to her." "So we aren't even legally married?" My dad shook his head. I could tell he was crying again. My stepmom let out the biggest scream I'd ever heard. I think it blew out my eardrums. With ears ringing, my brother and I rushed down the stairs when my stepmom was slinging horrible words at my father, her face in a red rage. Her things were packed within a few hours, and she was off to her sister's house. I could tell my dad was hurt, but he looked almost relieved as well. By the end of the week, my mom was ready to come home. We set up the guest room for her, but we were surprised when she came in the house and went directly to the master bedroom. My dad didn't say anything, but my brother spoke up. He told her to put her things in the guest room, and she looked hurt. "It's okay, Mom. You can sleep in the master bedroom tonight," I tried to assure her. "Tonight? It's my bed, my house." She looked confused and worried. Then she asked where our stepmom was. We told her she left, and I don't know if I saw relief on her face or terror. We all helped her get settled in the bed, and she took a nap while we discussed how we were going to introduce my stepmom to my mom. However, not long after, our stepmom came to the door and knocked loudly, waking my mom up. My brother answered the door, and in a hushed tone, he told her to be quiet. Just as the door shut again, my mom was on the landing of the stairs. "Everything okay?" she asked, and came down the stairs.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What did you say? I'm sorry. Oh, no. No. What did you say? Oh, no. What did you say? Oh, God. What did you say? God, Chris. Oh, God. No, I'm back in the video. I had to go back and re-record this because my mom got mad because I said why our mom's always snapping. Although it is very, very weird that moms snap all the time. Like how I know my mom is about to sleep right now. Oh, no.
Coming face to face with my stepmom. "Mom, this is Lisa," I said, stepping forward. Lisa crossed her arms as my mom put her hand out. Realizing that Lisa wasn't going to shake her hand, my mom put hers back at her side. She offered Lisa to come on in, and Lisa snidely replied, "I don't need to be invited into my own home." I guess it just shows the type of person my mom is, but she didn't reply with something nasty and rude. She graciously smiled and offered Lisa some tea. Then she said, "We can all call this place home." Lisa scoffed. That's when my mom almost lost her cool. Instead of flipping out and yelling at Lisa, she stirred the sugar in her tea and quietly said, "You're not the one who had their entire life ripped away from them, so I don't know what you're so upset about." "You're taking my husband away," was all Lisa could muster.
Can't sleep? Read this 5-minute story.
My mom reminded Lisa that she had actually taken her husband away first. She also said that it was extremely upsetting that Lisa got to watch her children grow up a little while she lay unconscious in a hospital bed. That's when Lisa jumped up and spilled hot tea all over my mom. I quickly sprang into action, as did my brother. I grabbed a towel to help my mom dry off. Luckily, the tea had some milk and sugar in it, so it wasn't scalding, and my brother pulled Lisa away, shoving her out the door while simultaneously screaming for our dad. He ran down the stairs like lightning. "What is it? What's going on?" he asked. We explained what happened, and my dad took off out the door after Lisa. I helped my mom up the stairs, and we got her in the shower to get the tea off of her. Then we heard shouting outside. My stepmom and dad were back. All we could hear was Lisa screaming that my dad lied to her, and there was nothing he could do to get her to forgive him. I was hoping she would leave, but she came into the house and shoved herself into the master bedroom right past my mom. I asked Lisa if she could have some respect for my mom who was changing, but she snarled at me and started stuffing a bag full of clothes. "I'm out of here. Don't bother calling me," she said to my dad as she quickly left again. Over the next few days, my dad tried calling her, but she wouldn't answer. He tried to get a hold of her sister, parents, and everyone else that would know where she was, but no one would give him any clues. During that time, he was also taking care of my mom, driving her to some appointments and making her food when she was hungry. My brother and I were busy with school, so thankfully, he was able to keep her company. A couple weeks after the crazy incident with Lisa, my brother and I came home to see our parents sitting on the couch together, my mom's feet across my dad's thighs. I couldn't believe the sight. When we came in the door, the two looked as if we caught them doing something wrong. They blushed and tried to scramble away from each other. My brother and I burst out laughing. They were married after all. We didn't mind that they wanted to get closer. It had been almost 15 years since they'd been able to do that. That was the moment we thought that we had our mom back. She was still pretty weak and often didn't understand how to use technology, but she was smiling more and cracking jokes. Her and I talked a lot more too, and I told her about almost everything that I've done in my life to catch her up. We cried a lot, and I held her while she apologized for not being around. Then things started to get strange. She'd wake up very early in the morning and turn on all the burners on the stove. The refrigerator door would be wide open, and the house would smell like gas fumes when we woke up in the morning. The last time that this happened, she was sitting out on the porch while everything in the kitchen was running, including the sink and the microwave. The back door was left open, and I saw her curled in a ball. I walked out of the door and asked her if she was okay. She didn't answer. I sat down next to my mom and put my arm around her. When she looked at me, all I could see was pure terror in her eyes. "Who are you?" she asked and pulled away from me. I looked at her utterly confused. "I'm your daughter, Emma." "No, my daughter is a baby. I just had her a couple of months ago. Who are you and why are you in my house?" "Dad?" I called, and it took a few minutes, but he showed up on the doorstep. "Something's wrong with Mom," is all I could say before she grabbed my hair and pulled my head back. She started screaming, "Where is my daughter?" And my dad grabbed her, pulling her arms behind her back. It was then that she snapped out of whatever trance she was in. She started crying and saying, "I'm sorry, Emma." I ran upstairs and locked my door. To say I was terrified would be an understatement. Something was going on with my mom, and we needed to figure it out.
Fine, guys. So you guys back.
Dad called the hospital, and they told him she may have had some memory lapses, but this was way more severe than a slip of the mind. She physically hurt me, and she's a very small woman. There was something else going on here. I spent the next several days trying to keep my distance from her. She apologized to me several times after the incident on the porch, but I was still afraid to get close to her. My father and brother had no problem accepting her back into the family. They would play board games and watch movies together, but every time that I would join in, I could tell that a dark mask fell over my mom's face. She would constantly stare at me out of the corner of her eye, and I swear I could see a red glint flash over her normally bright eyes whenever she didn't think I was looking. Then, one night, I woke up to her staring at me from across my bedroom. I popped up in my bed and asked her if she was okay. She didn't reply, but I could see her eyes in the darkness. They weren't right. I screamed for my dad again, and when he came in the room, he flipped on the light. She wasn't in the chair anymore. We searched for her everywhere in the house, but she wasn't anywhere we could see. That's when we heard the blood-curdling scream. Tune in next time to hear what happened with my mom in the woods.
Okay, we're at part 2. Okay, we're at part 2.
You know that part in a horror movie where you scream at the characters not to go after the monster? That scene where there's a blood-curdling scream and you know someone's about to die if they go after it? Well, that's how I felt about going after that noise in the woods. It's not some ghost or goblin out there, though. I'm pretty sure it's my mom, who just woke up from a coma. If you're feeling a little lost, you'll want to check out part 1 first. While you're there, don't forget to like these videos and subscribe to My Story Animated to listen to more crazy content. If you don't, you'll see a ghost the next time you look in the mirror. Trust me, you do not want to deal with that. In fact, you would probably scream at the top of your lungs, which is pretty much where you guys left me last time. That scream in the woods was ear-shattering. I fell down and was shaking. My dad and brother went up and decided to go and investigate the screams. I was too scared, so they told me to stay back and wait for them to come home. I sat there under my covers,
Why are little
crying for
girls
being
always so
scared
afraid
and
of
alone.
crap?
I know it's weird, but I actually felt the urge to call Lisa,
so
even though
afraid.
the last time I saw her was pretty dramatic. I really missed her. When I thought about getting scared and running into my mom's arms, I only saw her. I was surprised when she actually picked up. I told her how scared and horrifying it was. Every shadow seemed like a monster, and I could not calm down. That's when I heard some noises coming from my living room. My dad and brother must be back. I'll hope I can see you soon. You will, she told me. She asked me to keep our conversation secret, and I agreed. I rushed out of my bed downstairs so that I didn't have to be by myself. But, to my horror, I was completely alone. The lights were all turned off. This was scarier than sitting in my room. I walked towards our lamp to try to brighten up the place. I turned on the light and walked over to sit down and wait for everyone to return. Something reached out under the couch and grabbed my ankle, pulling me to the ground. I looked around and saw that it was my mom. I screamed at the top of my lungs and kicked her in the face a few times. She hissed and covered her eyes, and I ran as fast as I could towards the door. You know the old TV show Tom and Jerry? Well, I felt like a little brown mouse being chased around by a giant gray cat. I probably would have found it funny if I wasn't so busy running for my life. Did you know a cheetah can run over 60 miles an hour? Well, it felt like my mom was about to break a world record. Even though I got a head start and my mom was weak, my mom caught up with me in a matter of seconds and pinned me down to the ground. I thought I was going to die, but in that moment, my dad and brother rushed to the scene and pulled her off of me. My dad told me to call the ambulance while he and my brother held her back. With tears in their eyes, they handed her over to the medical professionals who took her away to the psychiatric hospital. My mom was begging to stay, promising that she didn't remember anything, but my dad and brother had witnessed it. My father went to the hospital with her, and my brother just sat there and glared at me. She was literally trying to kill me. How was I still the bad guy here? My brother ran to his room without even saying goodnight, and my dad spent the whole night at the hospital with Mom. I tried to go to sleep, but tossed and turned all night. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw her staring back at me with an evil glint in her eyes.
God.
I got up to go to the bathroom and overheard my dad and brother fighting about Mom being in the hospital. My suspicions were confirmed. "This is all Emma's fault," my brother screamed. "We just got Mom back, and now she has to send her back to the hospital all over again?" I wanted to jump out and scream, but I just couldn't gather the strength. Deep down, I knew he was a little right. I ran up to my room and locked my door. I fell into my pillow and sobbed. My dad must have heard me because he was knocking on the door seconds later, but I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was a complete wreck and ignored all of my friends and family. I barely ate meals. My brother tried to apologize with gifts, and my dad tried to convince me to go out to my favorite stores. Nothing made the darkness inside of me go away. I know that they say time heals all wounds, but it didn't for me. Every day that I stayed like this, I just got a little worse. I was always crying alone in my room. My dreams were even evolving with my horrible state. Even though my mom was far away from me, I was just becoming more afraid of her. She was starting to take over me. I hate to admit it, but I wish she never woke up. The only thing that made me feel anything was talking to Lisa. She even secretly came by when my dad and brother weren't home. I never asked how she knew I was home alone, but maybe I should have. One day in particular, before she came, my dad and brother knocked at my door a couple of weeks after this all happened. He told me that my mom was healthy enough to see people, and even doing quite better. She really wanted to see me, and it would mean a lot if we could all go there as a family. I promised Lisa I would go with them the first day my mom could receive visitors, but I wasn't feeling ready yet. I scoffed and brought up that he and my brother should go alone since that was the only family she wanted. They explained that they were going today no matter what, but I could process it all in my own time. He said they would be back only in a couple of hours, and he was leaving some money for takeout on the counter. Seeing my psychotic mother didn't appeal to me, but ordering a giant pizza to wash my sorrows away, that was my plan for the next few hours. I started walking down the stairs, but froze when I heard a click. This was way too early for them to come home, and I was pretty sure they would not have forgotten anything. Part of me panicked that my mom had somehow broken out of the hospital to attack me. I ducked behind the couch as fast as I could and peeked behind it slowly. I was only able to see that a person had come in with a dark hoodie, sunglasses, and high heels. I recognized it as Lisa. But why was she being so secretive? I was about to go and greet her until I heard something that made my blood run cold. "Yeah, I got in. Are you sure about this?" "Yeah, I'm completely alone. She is receiving visitors today." She? I thought to myself. It was obvious she meant my mom. What wasn't obvious is why she was scared. I followed her quietly like I was a spy, crawling on the ground and keeping myself out of sight. She went right into the bathroom in my parents' room. I decided to jump out and demand the woman leave at once. I startled her, knocking her sunglasses to the ground and things out of her hands. My suspicions were correct. "Lisa?" She explained that she thought I wasn't home and was just picking up stuff that she had to leave behind. I looked at the ground to see what she was picking up. I reached onto the floor and picked up a little orange medicine bottle and a bunch of loose pills. "Your stuff, huh?" I asked. Are you poisoning my mom?" I told her I knew she was bad, but a murderer? She shook her hands and said she could explain everything. Not poisoning her. I was helping her. I asked what kind of help she was giving. She said it was to be her true self. She told me that she knew my mom back before all of this happened, and she was not the kind and wonderful woman she wanted us all to believe. Lisa didn't want to lose her family to such a monster, so she started to sneak in and add some of these special pills to her medicine bottle.
We're Toms of Maine. We're Toms of joining you in the fight to save our planet. We're Toms of donating 10% of our profits to changing the world. We're Toms of Maine.
All this time, she had been living in a shed out in the woods. Coincidentally, it was her that screamed in the middle of the night, but only because a raccoon ran into her when she was coming back from breaking into our home. She had been slowly dosing my mom, since right around the time she started to seem to hate me. I told her that it couldn't be true, how my mom had been so sweet and caring until all of that happened. The pills, they made her evil. "No, you're wrong. See, these pills are just helping her be more open. She hates you. She wants you dead. Those are her true feelings. These pills only lower inhibition. She said it was better her true colors show now than in a couple of years. I was heartbroken by this response. I yelled at her and accused her of making it up because she was hurt that my dad loved someone else. Deep down, I didn't believe that. Lisa made sense. I guess I would kind of hate me too if I were my mom. Everyone blamed me for what happened. I cried saying I just wanted to be a happy family. And now I have to face my biggest fear, the truth that my own mother wished I was never born. Look, Lisa said, that's all I want to do. Think about how great we had it. You have to admit that things were a lot better before your mom woke up. She placed her hand on my shoulder and took out her wallet. She had a picture of me and her from our last vacation. Don't you miss this? She asked. She may have given birth to you, but I am the closest thing you ever had to a mom. Just stop it! I shouted, dropping to the floor. I feel so guilty even thinking about it. But she was kind of right. Even if my mom wasn't on these pills, she would always secretly hate me. Lisa, on the other hand, had proven time and time again that she loved me. I was left crying on the floor while Lisa slid past me. She handed me a piece of paper with her new number and told me to keep it away from my dad and brother. She then promised me that she would never be back.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Oh, yay. Got some food.
And would never tamper with her pills ever again. But she would leave everything with me, and if I wanted to do it, well, I should give her a call and she would help me out. She had a plan to get our family back together, but it needed both of us to work. I needed to decide the mother I wanted, the one who actually raised me, or the stranger that gave birth to me. I went to flush the pills in the toilet, but something stopped me. I decided to put my mom's bottle back as it was and bring the bag of pills to my room. Why was I hesitating to call the police or toss the pills? Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a click at the door. My dad and brother were home. I know this was stupid, but instead of telling them about Lisa immediately, ran to greet them. They seemed, well, pretty happy. They explained that mom could come home pretty soon, maybe even a week or two if we're lucky. I know I should have been happy, but this just sent me into tears. I ran into my room and locked the door. What if she would try to kill me again? Or worse, what if she pretended everything was okay, but secretly hated me? I tried to collect myself and went out and told my dad and brother that they were just happy tears. I was overwhelmed. I insisted I was okay and understood, but deep down, I was pretty scared. I decided that I was just going to forget it all ever happened, to toss the pills and forget Lisa ever happened, at least until that night happened. See, I had so many nightmares. Every time I closed my eyes, there were new terrible twists of horror, all of them involving my mom as a monster saying she hated me, and Lisa being washed out to sea. After waking up every 20 minutes for a couple of hours, I decided to go get myself a glass of water. That's when I heard my dad crying. I peeked around the corner to see him sitting there in the kitchen, sobbing to himself while looking at a piece of paper. I walked in and asked if he was okay, and he quickly shoved the paper into the drawer, and I pretended not to notice. He just told me he was feeling overwhelmed right now. Everything had been a big adjustment for him. I asked him why he wasn't happy about mom coming home. He said he was super excited. It was just adult stuff, and it was complicated. He left and said he was going to bed, giving me a kiss on the forehead and telling me he loved me. As soon as he left, I ran over to the drawer and dug through it. Crushed in the back of the forks and spoons was a picture of Lisa. He had been crying over her. He wasn't over her. It sounds harsh, but my mom kind of ruined everything when she woke up. I was so conflicted, but at the same time, I think this sealed the deal. All I ever wanted was my mom back in my life, but she really just hates me. With these pills, I could probably keep her out of my life forever. I don't know if I should tell anyone about Lisa's visit. When I got back to my room, I dug up that little paper Lisa gave me and sent the number a text. We need to talk. Tune in next time to hear what happened.
Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and...
All this.
You got this.
Well, anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe and don't forget to bell me. You know how about me. Our YouTubers, hit like allow notifications from me. So make sure you do that to me too. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.